Well, awesome. Well, thanks for having us. Kathy, thanks for putting this together. We love Baylor. We met at Baylor our sophomore year and actually moved back onto Baylor's campus basically recently. We're living off of 11th Street. So this is a picture of our family. That's James on the right, Jacob, who's our now 9-month-old, and then Haven down at the bottom. But really, this is a better picture of what we've been doing over the last couple months. So we jumped in with a bunch of college students and had a big dress up over Halloween as the Incredibles. That is not my wife's real hair, that is a wig. So I want to start today off with this question. And this is not a rhetorical question, I actually want to hear some feedback, some answers. What would you say the world needs more of, besides pizza?
Appreciation.
More appreciation, awesome. Creativity, awesome. Yeah. Happiness, that'd be good. Transparency, good stuff, yeah. Fun. See, I know this is a room full of future entrepreneurs based off of these answers. Creativity, fun, happiness, what else? Jesus, there you go. What else? Maybe one more. Humility. Awesome. I think those are all great things, but I would boil it down to something that I've found in this one verse. But godliness with contentment is great gain. For we brought nothing into this world, and we're going to take nothing out. It doesn't matter how incredible the business is that you will start. If you leave behind godliness and contentment, there will be great gain left here on earth. Now, when you think of contentment, what comes to mind? Off the top of your head. Somebody already said it, happiness, right? How many people do you know that don't like happy people? You ever seen, how many people are drawn to happy people? I just want to hang out with unhappy people. No. People are drawn to content people. And what I would say is contentment has to do with people being happy with who they are and what they do. Who they are and what they have, rather. Who they are and what they have. Contentment is not being content with the status quo. That's very, very different. That's what we would call complacency. Now, the world does not need more complacent people, does it? The world does not need more people that have ideas but don't do them. The world does not need more people that are disgruntled with their dead-end jobs. The world needs more people that are content with who they are, content with what they have, and then take what they have, give what they've got, and create something that adds value to people's lives. The first part of that, though, is discovering who you are. If I were to ask you that question, what is your why? What's driving you to be at Baylor? What's driving you to being here today besides free pizza and cookies? What is bringing you here to this room today? What is your why that you maybe want to start businesses one day? When I graduated from Baylor, I did not know my why. I didn't know what I was going for. So I jumped in a corporate sales job up in Denver, Colorado, which is where I was from. And I got the heck out of Waco because I figured success is outside of Waco. Left Waco, jumped in. 6 months into my job, I hated every minute of every day. I was in a cubicle, and every day I looked out at the mountains, and I was like, why am I in a cubicle and not in the mountains? So I did what every responsible young adult should do. I quit my job, and I bought a one-way ticket to Alaska, and I began to wander around as I was wondering, what is my why? See, I didn't know what my purpose was. I'd gotten into business because I wanted to make money and be successful. That's a terrible reason to get into the business world. To make money and be successful. Does the world need more people who want to make money and be successful? No. There are plenty of people out there that want those things. We need people who know their why. So I literally got off a plane, hitchhiked around Alaska to try to literally find myself. Eventually, long story short, found myself on the side of a mountain and discovered with a close call that I was living for myself and I needed to readjust what I was living for. And I came off that mountain deciding I'm going to live for glorifying God and I'm going to live for adding value to people's lives. If I could do those two things for one more day of my life, then I would have added value to this world. So I came back to Waco to date and eventually marry my wife, Rachel, and we jumped in. And for about a year, we were part of a discipleship school that was helpful for unpacking more of our why and our purposes. And then we were off to the races. So, Rachel, why don't you talk about this next picture?
So right after school, I was a journalism major, emphasis in PR, and I really didn't know what I wanted to do. I loved photography, but I've always had a lot of different hobbies in my life, and so I was like, this is just another hobby. I don't really think it can be a long-term thing. I'm really interested in doing weddings, but I also had heard that the market was pretty competitive and cutthroat, specifically in Waco. There was a lot of competition, and it wasn't necessarily community over competition, which you hear a lot of these days with creatives. So I started to just buy more equipment because that's kind of what I would do whenever I had an interest. And as we were about to get married, Luke was like, hey, love your passion, but if you're going to keep buying things, you need to decide if this is what you're going to do. So I decided, okay, I guess I really will try to do this. And so I met with a mentor in Dallas and got a couple workshops in where I just learned about what she did and the programs she used and the systems that she used, and really just started to market myself and put stuff on Facebook. And Facebook was a lot more popular than Instagram. Wasn't really a thing. And so before long, I just started booking clients, and within the first year, I photographed 25 weddings, and then I would go on to shoot about 95 weddings in 4.5 years, and in the midst of that, have 3 children. So shot a lot of those whenever I was pregnant. And that's Luke over there, one of those photos that I took when he was just a little realtor working over at campus.
Just a little guy.
Looks a little different now. We've aged a little bit, lack of sleep, but
Lack of hair is my problem.
yeah. In the past year, I've only photographed 1 wedding, and I'll do 1 more this fall. We'll talk about this in a little bit, but I kind of transitioned from doing the photography side of weddings whenever we started to work on our venue. So it was a fun season while it lasted, but it's not super sustainable for the long term when you have kids growing up to be working 12-hour days on Saturdays when there's sports games and stuff.
So they were recently married and jumping into the business world. What was funny is I would have said in college I was entrepreneurial. I started really random businesses when I was younger. But Rachel was the first one to actually start a business, and she was incredibly good at it. She launched a photography business. I don't know if you caught this. And her first year shot 25 weddings. That's like what most people hope to shoot within their first 5 years of wedding photography, and she was doing it there. And it was because she utilized what she had, which were connections here around Baylor, and she was confident in who she was. She could show up to her first wedding shoot, and really everybody else would have thought, you've been doing this for so long, because she was confident in who she is. And that's one thing I love about my wife, is that I had to go find myself. She was already clear on who she was. So we jumped in. One of the best things I did early on is I got under another entrepreneur, a guy named Ryan Gibson, who owns a local, what at that point was just a real estate company called Campus Realtors, that you guys probably now know as one of the main property management companies. Jumped in with him, and together we helped kind of get the property management side of that up and going. I was on the sales side, so I was selling houses, investment property, and different stuff like that. But the most important thing is that I got under somebody that I could learn from. And Ryan, now today, is one of the most successful entrepreneurs in Waco. They own places like Fuego Tortilla. They own a ton of real estate downtown. Rydell Capital is one of their main companies now. So I got to learn as a young gun from somebody. For many of you, ladies and men in this room, that should be a goal for you early on, is get under somebody that you can learn from. We also jumped into ministry. So I had zero desire to be in full-time vocational ministry when I was at Baylor or after Baylor, until somebody came and offered me a job as a young adult pastor. Rachel and I prayed about it, and because we were clear on our why, we wanted to glorify God and we wanted to add value to people, we knew that this was actually an option for us. And so we got in and really launched a young adult ministry that didn't exist in our church prior to that, launched a service, and I would say for those next 3 years, we learned a ton. And if there's anything that I could use to describe what your goal should be in your 20s, it's to learn. It's to learn. Every day you can wake up and learn something new. If you'll turn your attitude to having a positive and receptive heart to what you can learn. Anything you would add on that? She's a great pastor's wife, by the way, while running businesses and having children. So then, this is one of my good friends, one of our good friends, David Ridley. You're going to tell the story when he came over to the house?
Yes, so we, did you include the
Yeah, they're up next.
So this is our house. We were on Fixer Upper season 3, and then the next house is David's. He was on it that season as well. So we had been friends for a few years, just doing young adult stuff in our church together. And we had this idea of basically doing, we saw people drive by our house all the time. And so we had this idea of like, what if we just like let people see our house and we made money off of it? Like that would be fun. This was before everybody.
Every day people drive, we call them slow rollers. They just slowly roll by our house. And generally some bro's driving the front and his wife's in the back seat with like a DSLR nice camera shooting pictures of her house. Like, where did you get her address? Who are you and how can we make money off of you?
Yeah. So this is before everybody was doing the Airbnb stuff. So we were like, this could be a good idea. That would evolve into a different idea of basically just doing tours of Waco and including some of the homes, because we saw the opportunity to really showcase our whole city and show people that are coming to town that there's more to Waco than just the houses and the silos. And so we decided to launch this company, and what started off as just an idea of maybe doing a few tours a month, maybe 1 or 2 on the weekends, turned into a lot more.
So literally we go, David comes over to the house. Sorry, it keeps clicking. So David comes over to our house, is like, what if we started a tour company? We're like, we've been talking about something similar. And that night we start buying up domain names. We're like, why don't we just go for it? Next thing you know, within 4 weeks, we buy a Mercedes Sprinter van, slap a magnet of a logo that we had come up with in that amount of time, and look around Waco to try to talk people into going on our tour. And now, because Rachel and David both had successful social media platforms, when we were on the show, Rachel's follower count went from 3,000 to 10,000 in like 2 weeks. David's did something similar. And so they started posting about our company, and for the first 3 months, every person who came on our tour because of the social media impact that our accounts had. And so we coerced some very nice ladies to go on some of our tours. This is one of our first tour guests. Our actual first lady was a mom and 2 daughters from Philadelphia. David was single at the time, and I think the only reason why they came on the tour was to hang out with David. Like, literally, like, we'll pay $79 a ticket, that's what we charge, if we can go on this tour and hang out with David for 3 hours. He was also known as Waco's most eligible bachelor.
He's pretty marketable.
Fairly marketable. Not a long list of eligible bachelors, but he was one of them. So we just launch out, and between May of our launch year, which is 2.5 years ago, 2016, and December of that year, somehow we coerced 800 plus people to come on our one Mercedes Sprinter van. At the beginning of 2017, we bought a second van, and David went full-time selling tickets. He can sell tickets to anyone. It's amazing to watch this man sell stuff. Let me just say, who you partner with really matters. And when you partner with people, you want to make sure that your gift sets are balanced. I was the activator, so I'm the one that's like, let's do it. David can sell anything. Rachel's like, slow down and make sure it actually looks good and is good. We need a lot of slowdown in our lives. So we jump in. So year 2, remember year 1 we had 800. Year 2, we go from 2 vans to eventually 3 and then 4 vans and host 12,000 people last year. Then going into the following year, we buy another now 3 vans and add a boat, and have hosted we'll end up around 20,000 people in 2018 that have come on our tours. So this is our fleet, and good news is David got married. Thankfully, it did not tank our sales. We maintained our sales even though he got married. Have now added 7 different vans to our fleet and hosted people from everyone from Dr. Livingstone and her whole family have come on our tours. One of the Cathy brothers, who is one of the owners of Chick-fil-A, all the way down to tens of thousands of 50-year-old white ladies from all over the world have come on our tour who absolutely love Fixer Upper. We've had a wide array of diversity of personality that have come on our tours. And now we have, this is one of our groups of people. They have lots of fun, as you can see. We added a river cruise this fall. If you didn't know, the Brazos River, when it's not flooded, is a beautiful experience. And so we bought the nicest pontoon boat that we could find, decked it out with our logos, and started taking people. We've taken around 300 people on those tours so far, and it launched in August of this year. Very, very relaxing, very refreshing. It took about 6 weeks to develop the new product. And I would say, when people say, what's your X factor? What makes you guys be you? It's these people. These are our guides and drivers. We have about 60 people that are on our active roster. Some of them Baylor students, some of them people who have retired, who work for the city. I mean, we have everyone from 22-year-olds to 65-year-olds working for us. And we love, love, love the unique flavor that each one of our guides and drivers bring. And so, as you can see, it's been very expansive. We're going to go into a little bit of those practicals of like, how did that happen? We'd love to hear questions from you as we go through that as well. But then we came up with another idea. So we had done way better than we anticipated with the business that we had started. And we thought, if we can get a couple sold out tours a week, we'll be in good shape. And next thing you know, we're doing up to 16 tours in one day. So we have excess capital that's coming through. And again, we go back to what's our why? We want to glorify God, and we want to add value to people's lives. And so Rachel had been dreaming for a long time, being in the wedding industry. She knew that the market in Waco was ripe for a new wedding venue. So why don't you talk about that?
Yeah, so being a wedding photographer and shooting a lot of weddings, I've been to a lot of wedding venues. And so I've seen what works, what doesn't work. And what's interesting is that a lot of people, when they start a wedding venue, don't necessarily have any experience in the wedding industry. They just kind of build something. And so after being to so many different places, I felt like I knew what we basically would need, and I knew that there was a shortage of good venues in Waco. One of the primary things that is tough about a lot of venues is a lack of light. And so I'm a natural light photographer primarily, and that's a big thing right now with using natural light, not so much like the big flash. And so you need natural light for that, or at least good light, not the fluorescent, ugly lights that are in most venues in most places. So,
some of y'all are realizing there's different types of lights. Yes, there are different types of lights.
So anytime you see bright images that are kind of airy and pretty, it's because it's natural light. And so the primary thing that helps with that is light and the color white. And so I knew that a white venue would do really well. It's kind of become a popular thing in general in the U.S. And so I knew that it would be successful. So at the beginning of 2017, we had this idea, but we actually were talking to some friends about it, and we even said the words like, no, we couldn't do that right now. Like, life is too full. Well, within 4 months, we had already bought some land. This is the land that we bought before anything was built. Again, we partnered with some of our good friends, people that we knew we could trust, with different connections in the city and with different skill sets. And we're able to, again, have the capital to put into the investment. So you want to show me the pictures? This is it during construction. It's in Lorena, which is about 20 minutes from here, 20 minutes south, and that's it completed. So we opened, and our first wedding was in April, the beginning of April, and we've done about 15 weddings, and we have like 30 more on the books booked for the next couple years.
So most people would say, hey, when you start in construction, build something small. This was our first time we'd ever built anything in our lives other than something with Legos. And it was a $1.5 million project. We bought 100 acres and built a 6,500 square foot facility. And we had no idea what we were doing, literally. But what we knew is we knew the market. We knew that if we could put action forward, then we could figure it out along the way. And as we figured out, we definitely made some mistakes. But the end result was a finished product that, because of Rachel's phenomenal eye for design, because of another one of our team members' phenomenal ability to track budgets, another one of our team member is a local banker, so we were able to secure financing, and I'm more like ADD project manager that kind of keeps things moving in the same direction. So this popped out. After about 9 months, it went from, I guess it was about, within less than a year, it went from idea to we were having our first wedding in May of this last year. So since then, we've booked, I don't know how many weddings, and we've hosted between the lower, what's that?
Like about 15.
About 15 weddings we've booked and hosted at our venues since it started in May, and continuing to book into 2019 as well. Some inside pictures. There's over 3 miles of shiplap inside of this building, which our framers, or rather our finished carpenters, were like, I'm never looking at shiplap again after they installed all of it. Beautiful, white, airy, like Rachel said, and has been a great place to host many different weddings. We wanted to create something. We've actually hosted some worship nights there, some different free events for different people because we want to add value to people's lives as well. So now we're going to get practical. Where are my practical people at? Like, hey, give me a few tips, top 5 tips. We're going to give you 4 tips to starting a business. Number 1, don't skimp on the important stuff. 2 things you don't want to skip on. People and whatever your equipment or kind of essential goods are. So for us with Waco Tours, we were ruthless to hire phenomenal people early on. And we just said, hey, we want to partner with you in this company. If you're willing to jump in and we see your ability to grow with it, and we were blessed to have an incredible team. But we also didn't buy a dilapidated old van. We bought a brand new Mercedes Sprinter van. When Rachel started her photography business, she didn't go buy a little Nikon Rebel and try to start taking pictures. She spent around Canon Rebel, thank you, not Nikon, obviously. She bought a very nice piece of equipment. You want to talk about starting with the end in mind on that? So she said this early on the way in. You want to start with the end in mind. So if you want to become a phenomenal photographer, then start with the equipment that's going to get there. Now that might mean needing to raise funds. That might mean needing to go to local banks to try to build partnerships, but it is so worth it in the long run. Also with our venue, obviously we didn't skimp on doing it well and doing it big. So don't skimp on the important stuff, but do learn what it means to bootstrap as you get going. Guy Kawasaki wrote a book called Art of the Start, one of those books that I read early on. And one of the key things that he says is bootstrapping is good. So don't spend on the things you don't have to, but definitely invest on the important things. Number 2, push through the oh crap moments. Now I know I just said that at Baylor, but that's because you will have an oh crap moment as you start a business. That is a moment when, how many of you know that all good ideas have a moment when you second guess your good idea? And that's what it was for every one of our businesses. So when we started, I remember with Waco Tours, we were this close to canceling and scrapping everything before it even got going. We had bought the domains, spent a couple $1,000s getting things like insurance and starting to get the LLC things filed and everything like that. And the idea that we had actually got shut down by another party that we were going to work with. And we realized at this point, we're like, if we can't do this, then it's a bad idea. And both David and I were ready to throw in the towel when Rachel's like, no, it's still a good idea. We can still take people on tours of Waco. And I literally remember looking at her and saying, yes, but I will never own a tour bus company. We will not do a tour bus company. Famous last words to my wife's really good ideas. And so we went for it, we pressed through, and the fruit of that is we persevered. Similarly with Old Bethany, within 3 weeks of construction, we had a $70,000 overage because of roads. You know, dirt roads are actually really expensive. We didn't know that when we started a construction project. And so when one of our partners decided, hey, let's not go single wide roads, let's go double wide roads, it just ate up $70,000 of margin that we didn't have in our budget. At that point, we're like, maybe we should just quit, have a dirt road party, and call it good. And literally, we're like, this is a terrible idea. We're going to go broke. This is not going to work. It's a bad idea. Nobody's going to book it. And all those doubts start to creep in. And that's the oh crap moment that I'm describing, that you have to choose to push through to the other side if you're ever going to start something. It's not going to be easy. You're going to have to persevere through it. Number 3, value people over profits. Early on, when we started Waco Tours, we decided that we were going to pay our guides better than any other part-time job that they could get in town. We would start out at about $50 for their 3-hour experience, plus they would get however much in tips, averaging around $30 to $50. So our guides were walking away with $100 per tour. That was what they could do in 3 hours. How many other part-time jobs do you know that you can make $100 in 3 hours? None. But we valued our people, and so we were willing to take it out of the margin of profit in order to ensure that we have phenomenal people. And again, what did I end up saying is our number 1 most valuable, our X factor is absolutely our people. And so we didn't skimp on that. We absolutely are willing to pay them. But then customers as well. I mean, we have refunded tickets, any sort of bad experience. We had one time on one of our tours, we had a lady throw up on the back. We drive through Cameron Park, you get a little car sick, lady pukes, right? And we hadn't trained our guides on what to do. So they get this lady off the van, pull the van over, somebody else runs and grabs another van, they swap the vans out, they drive this lady to get like a Sprite and then get her taken back to the place, and then they continue on with the tour. Now that lady, who probably felt very embarrassed that she was puking on a tour bus, ended up feeling so incredibly valued by the end of the experience because we chose people over profits in that. Lastly, the pie is always growing. So when we started the tour company, there was no competition in town. I know that's not much of a shocker. You're like, there were no tour companies, not surprised. But since we've started, there's now probably 6 other tour companies that have popped up. And as they have, now I'm a fairly competitive guy. I enjoy good competition. And competition is not bad. It makes us all better. But to believe that, man, they're stealing from our business is the wrong mentality. I really believe that for us as a city, the pie is always growing. There's always more to have, and so if there's other businesses that might be a competitive business coming into the market, we're going to continue to operate off the mentality that the pie is growing, so there's going to be more pie for everyone. So those are a few of our different pieces. Again, at the end of the day, knowing what your why is before you start doing what you think you need to do. If you don't know your why, then you're just going to try to figure out your why. You're going to try to have successful careers and make a lot of money, and instead of looking at, no, what's my why? What do I want to do to add value to this earth that's going to last beyond your 80, 90 years that you'll be on this planet? So that's a little bit about us, but we want to open the floor to questions for you guys. And again, we don't feel like we have all the answers. We're just continue to take risky steps of faith oftentimes, and the Lord's blessed us through the process. So thank you so much for listening, and we are open to questions now. Yes, sir.
What does your partner agreement look like is it y'all three, as far as you, your wife and David? What does that look like?
That's great. Yeah, so we drew up a partnership agreement early on, and we went 50-50 couple to single. So he has 50, we have 50, and that's worked out really well. Since he got married, she's on it as well.
When we first started, he came on full-time pretty quickly, and we both had other jobs. And so since then, we do contribute like weekly hours, and we do pull a salary as well, a part-time salary. But because he was devoting 100% of his time, it only made sense to do a 50-50.
Great question. Love the practicals. What else?
How do you manage being both a youth pastor as well as owning multiple businesses?
Great question. You want to answer that? So I'm one of the college pastor at Antioch Community Church. That's very much my full-time job. And so we are constantly in a place of reprioritizing the time that we have to give. My number one priority is going to be my relationship with God, my wife, and then my kids. Outside of that, all the gaps get filled according to whatever our priorities are. So for me right now, college ministry is my number one priority beyond my family. And so I invest most of my time into that, and then make sure that I delegate out according to whatever I need to do in the other different areas. She runs pretty much all of Old Bethany. I am kind of coordinate maintenance and landscaping and go shoot skeet out there, and it's really important stuff. She keeps that thing running. So we just kind of, it's like a pyramid of priorities, I would say, is really, really important. But you got to make sure that you have the right stuff at the top, which is absolutely, I believe, my relationship with God, and my wife comes second.
And I think the term of balance to me means like that you give and take constantly. And so there might be a week that we're really busy. Right now is fall photo session, and so I've got a lot of fall family photos to edit. And things are typically pretty crazy with Baylor students in the fall. And so some weeks our kids watch a little more TV than we would like, and then some weeks they don't watch any, really. And so it's just the give and take of being able to be okay that at times it's like this and then it switches back.
Yeah, great question. Yeah.
So I just have this question just because I've had to go through this, but have there been any opportunities that y'all have had to say no to because of that time? And if so, how did you go about doing that, even if you appreciated that opportunity?
Yeah. So when I was offered the job as young adult pastor, it was either come on full-time vocational ministry or basically jump in with an equity startup company called Rydell. That was very attractive to me, being a business person that was excited about my career. But we consistently have learned to come open-handedly with our desires and acknowledging this is what I really want to do, and then asking the Lord to kind of speak into the shaping of it again. Because I know my why is glorifying God first and adding value to people as an overflow of that. I know that I have to look to Him to kind of shape that direction. And so we invited a lot of input from community, from different people praying for us, and it became clear that in that season we were to learn what it means to be provided for, not to be the provider of makers, which was, I was comfortable providing for myself. It was a much bigger step of faith to allow God to provide for us.
Yeah, and I would say since then, we've had a couple different opportunities come up to be a part of some entrepreneurial things, and just recently we've had to say no to some things because we realized that we're stretched about as tightly, well, not necessarily thin, I wouldn't say that we're stretched thin, but we are pretty tight in our time and just our energy. And so we feel like the next year or two is really the time to just buckle down and be faithful with what we've started and what we've been given, and not start anything new for a little bit.
So our goal is in 2019 to not start something, which will be the first year in several years that we've not started something. So, but it really is one of those things where we consistently try to go back to God and go, okay, we want to be open-handed with whatever it is because you know the unknown to us. And so we have to trust you in that. Yeah, great question. Yes, sir.
How did you come up with like the route that they go on for the tour?
Very intentionally. Or me and David basically just drove around, kind of figured it out as we went. So
well, yes, he likes to take credit for
No.
things,
Let me rephrase it. Rachel designed the actual route. We came up with the facts on the route. Maybe a little ad lib at the beginning.
Oh, that's correct.
Just correcting the crediting. No, but really we wanted to expand the footprint as much as possible. Most people, there were 20,000 people coming to Waco a week. Nobody was there to show them around. The overwhelming majority of those 20,000 people had a very distinct route. Come off 35, drive down 5th Street, look at the silos, drive back down 6th Street, get back on 35. Best case scenario, they pass Chick-fil-A, right? How does that help our city? I mean, it does in a small extent, but not nearly as much as if we expand the footprint as much as possible. So it's a 2.5-hour experience, starts downtown. They get to hear a little bit about Waco history. Then we drive them to Common Grounds, get them all hyped up on coffee, feed them a little ice cream as well for the sugar lovers. And then we get back on, drive around Baylor's campus. People from all over the world are blown away by this campus, y'all. They're like, I had no idea that Waco is so beautiful. Driving by the stadium, Suspension Bridge, Cameron Park, loop back by Mission Waco and talk about all the things that Mission Waco has done to help transform our city. Take them through the not so good parts of town as well, to talk about how we're still work in progress and how the city's working together to eradicate poverty and are really trying to partner around people that are that have less opportunities. And then we drive them over into the neighborhoods, show them houses. All the California people immediately want to sell their shacks and buy a mansion for what they can get here. And we kind of conclude by coming down Austin Avenue. And really that's the part where so a couple quick stats. 5% of the people that come on our tours come back within 12 months and do the exact same tour. Think about that. They're coming back to Waco and they're doing the exact same 2.5-hour tour of Waco. Why is that? It's because what they experience on the tour is more than just a tour. They don't just experience Fixer Upper, they don't just experience Waco, they experience being a part of a family, which is the goal of our guides and drivers. We had a guy that was so impacted on one of the tours. He owned a donut shop up in Chicago. Most husbands that come on the tour come on begrudgingly. Because they're in Waco, begrudgingly. Like, they're here because their wife wants some shiplap and some really expensive cotton ball things, and then they want to bounce back to New York or wherever they're from. So most husbands get on begrudgingly. Goes on the tour, is so impacted. I mean, we have him up dancing. This guy does not dance. He was dancing. He should not dance, but he was dancing. Having the time of his life. Gets done, so impacted, goes back to his donut shop outside of Illinois and decides, I'm going to change the way I run my business. Starts like changing things left and right with his business. 3 months later, jumps in his car with 6 dozen donuts, drives from Illinois down to Waco, Texas, gets off at our little sales tent next to Magnolia, hands us 6 dozen donuts and says, thank you for changing the way I run my business. And his employee who got drugged with him from Chicago or from Illinois is like, he's a very different person. He was like not a very happy person. Went on this tour, of Waco. Like, this is not real. It is real, but it's not. It's like what happens is when you love people, when you care about people over profits, they realize that people are more important than profits, that people are more important than money, that their families are more important than money. We had a lady from Florida recently, same deal. She's like, I'm so blown away by what Waco is doing to work together, because we talk about different businesses, we talk about Mission Waco. She goes, I'm going to go back and try to do the same thing in Florida. Like, it is happening over and over again. If you're really bored, go on our TripAdvisor and read the story after story of these people that are like, I think we have 1,500 excellent reviews. 2,000 excellent reviews, which is a 98% excellent review rate. One of my favorite quotes recently, I kid you not, says in the title of the TripAdvisor review, "This is better than Disney." And underneath, like, Disney, okay? Underneath, she's like, I had the most incredible experience on this, unpacking. And it's like, from a factual basis, she drove around Waco, she saw the suspension bridge, she went to Lover's Leap, she drank coffee, things that are not like out of this world. But the way that she felt was out of this world, because she felt valued, more important than the amount of money that she's making us as a company. That was a huge tangent, but kind of answers a little bit about your question. What other question? Yes, ma'am.
Do you have any like protocol? What do you usually do when you disagree with your business partners, like David?
Great question. So we have conflict all the time. And the reason why we felt good about who we started businesses with is because we've done conflict with all those people and we've learned how to do it well. Not perfectly. We had a time recently where we came to a head in one of our businesses with some of our partners, and we had it out in the conflict moment. We circled apart, and then we came back together and both sought to understand each other so that we could move forward. And that's where most people are very hesitant to get into partnerships, understandably so, because most people don't actually know how to do conflict very well. And we've said non-negotiable, our relationship is more important than this business. And we have an agreed upon kind of wise counsel that we'll go to mediate if things were to get really heated. We have not had to use that at this point, but we have that as a backup plan as well. Nominating a third party is always helpful. And Tyler and his company at 1052 last year jumped in, and they were our consultants for 12 months, and both helped us help mediate relationships, but also helped us frame a lot of the decisions that we've made. So ensuring that you have wise counsel is a huge, huge part of running a successful business. What other questions? Yes, sir.
Can you go back to coming off the mountain in Alaska? Yeah, these two really broad general points, right? Honor God and value people. But then what did you take, how did you take the next step to figure out what did that mean specifically for you? I mean, can you take us through that part?
Great question. Yeah, so I learned that I was good at living for myself, which is why I was on a mountain in Alaska, not caring about anybody else besides myself and the mountain. And that was like a small example of really most of my life up until that point. So I knew that my priority is I need to learn what it means to live for God. And so I needed to surround myself with people that knew how to do that, and to let go of all the dreams and all the excess and really focus in on who are people that I've seen love God. It didn't hurt that there was this beautiful brunette that was signed up for this thing called the discipleship school that I previously had no interest in doing. But for a year, I went through this discipleship program that really helped me uncover more about my own identity and my relationship with God. And so that kind of teed me up and us as a couple up into being able to take that and then apply it in the workforce. Because I was not, some of y'all are way more ready than I was to go into the workforce. I was ready from a practical knowing how to like get a job standpoint, but not from what do I really want to do with my life? And not even like I want to start businesses, but what value do I want to add to life? And did that answer both parts?
So the discipleship, you went someplace to get further instruction on how to get that through that journey. You came over to that.
Yep.
Yeah, and I would say it's also trial and error, specifically with, what was the part you said about people? Value people?
People over profits.
Yeah, just valuing people. Not sure if you've noticed yet, but people are challenging, a lot of people, and a lot of people can act kind of crazy. And so...
Not in this room. Y'all are all
really normal.
None of y'all are a little bit crazy at all.
And so just being in ministry, it's also similar to running businesses in the way that we try to run them. You value people over maybe the instant answer or the instant resolution to the problem that's going on. So that means maybe having a 2-hour conversation when you could have it in 2 minutes, and you could say, nope, this is my decision, this is what we're doing. And I think from when we started ministry, that was actually something that we learned the hard way, is that it's better to honor people and value them by giving them maybe a little bit more than you feel like in the moment, and that ultimately it pays off because it builds trust with people, and it's worth it too. Even if you part ways and things don't end up the way you want to, then at least you still put value on them, and they can walk away saying, yeah, I felt valued in that. So that's what we've tried to do.
Great stuff. Yes, sir.
Could you go more into how you were able to connect with your mentor? And also, do you have any advice on how we may be able to find mentors for ourselves?
Absolutely. Correct. I love that you're asking that question, because the people you surround yourself with shape you, period. If you surround yourself with dead-end people, you're going to have a dead-end life.
I think, especially in maybe our generation and your generation, because we're still pretty young, millennials and younger, that we can tend to be consumers and wait for people to come to us. Mm-hmm. But really, Luke does this really well. I don't do it as well, but he has taught me that you have to initiate for what you want. And so I think we can tend to be like, I want mentorship, like people should be asking me to meet with them, or you can ask somebody and then you expect them to initiate with you, hey, let's meet next week. But really, it's your responsibility to get what you need and to get what you want. And so if you want mentorship, then knock on the doors from people that you want mentorship from. Don't settle for no. Even if you hear a no, try to find another way or find somebody else that you can meet with. And Luke does a great job he's a super initiator, so he initiates with a lot of people. And ultimately, he's learned a lot, and he has gotten input and influence from a lot of different people because of that. I tend to be more of like a reserved person. I don't want to put people out. But the reality is that most people actually do want to invest in people. And so don't give up. Just keep asking.
That's great. Yeah. Yeah, find somebody that you admire their life. Not just do they make money, but are they living for something more than themselves? And do whatever you can to get around those people. Don't say, can I just get lunch with you every week? Because you're gonna limit them and you're gonna limit yourself, and most people won't want to do that. How do you serve their vision, and in doing so, you learn something from them? So if you can go in with a servant's heart, you're gonna fly through the ranks at any company if you're like, I'm willing to serve this company. Even when your bosses make bad decisions, which they will. Even when you're working long hours, there's a verse that says it is good for a young man, and I believe for women as well, to bear a burden in their youth, because you develop work ethic, and Baylor is great at developing you for a work ethic standpoint, hitting deadlines, hitting expectations. Those things are very practical, and your work becomes your ministry later on in life. And so when you get out, though, realizing that you might feel like you're best in your class, but you're going to be the lowest rung entry-level person. And in order to stand out against the rest, work hard, keep your head down, be faithful, and look to serve the vision, not lead your own vision. And that led me to having opportunities with people where, Rachel would be out shooting. I'd work 10-hour days, and that wasn't even that much, really. But my boss wasn't asking me to work 10-hour days. I just enjoyed the work and worked hard, and that gave me credence then to be able to receive his kind of mentorship type stuff. Does that help?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Awesome. What's your name?
Braxton.
Awesome. If you were to start a business, what would you start? I just had that thought. Before you even asked that question, I was like, I want to know what you would start.
So we had like an idea going. Me and this is my roommate from last year, freshman year. This is my roommate, Austin Boyer. We have an idea going. It's called Appreciate Everything, and it's basically like we're calling it like a lifestyle brand. It's basically we're teaching people how to live a more positive lifestyle and have more appreciation in life and appreciate things in life instead of harping on like more of the negative things in life. So we're kind of working on starting that.
That's awesome.
We started like social media pages, or we're working on starting social media pages. We just started our website last night actually,
Nice.
So it's kind of cool that you
That's
have-
awesome, man.
But yeah, so we're working on starting like a base for that. But we'll have like more information on it and try to spread it more.
What I love about what you guys are doing is you're starting with your why, not starting with your what. You're saying, I want to basically create an appreciation brand, which there's not a lot of those out there. I think the market is ripe for not complaining and instead appreciating. And then you're going to build your what around that. Is that accurate?
Yes.
Way to go. That's awesome, guys.
Thank you. Thank you.
Super cool. What else? What other questions? Yes, sir.
Is there any special partnerships y'all have? And then as well, what do the bands do when they're not on tours?
Great question. Special partnerships with local businesses?
Yeah, like as far as y'all have like giant groups that go to certain places that y'all go
Oh,
to
yeah.
frequently, or
Yeah, I mean, we've taken 300-person groups on tours. We've taken 2-person groups on tours. We do private, customized events for them, and we've developed great relationships with local business partners. Always treat local business partners well because they're the family economy locally, and you can burn bridges really quick if you're not careful. So, Common Grounds, Heritage Creamery, Kim Cutler has baked, the same person that made the cookies today, has done has provided stuff for us on our tours. We, as a business, we wanted to enhance people's experiences to local businesses. So we've done a number of different things to help in that. And the second part of your question was, what do we do with our vans? Our vans are decked out in marketing. So when they're not on tour, they're a billboard. And people call that number in the bottom right all the time, going, hey, I saw your vans, tell me about your tours. And because we have 7 of them across, and we intentionally place them around different places around Waco so that they are basically free marketing for us. Or not free, nothing's free. Low cost marketing. Great question. What else? I feel like this side of the room has some things churning. Some of you more quiet people, what are you thinking? What do you want to know? Yes, sir.
What were some of the ways you guys went about actually finding those partnerships?
Finding the partnerships with local businesses or with our business partners?
With your business partners?
Relationships. Yeah, I mean, we try to do relationship really well.
And there's some people that we have a relationship with that we see how they maybe live their lives or, live their lives, and we're like, yeah, we won't partner with them. Love them, like being friends with them. So not everybody makes a good business partner.
And here's a key element of that. Do they have humility? I will never partner with somebody that doesn't have humility, period. Because pride is the root of all kinds of evil. And so it will be quick to deteriorate anything if you have if you are prideful yourself, you got to deal with that. And if the person you're looking to partner with is prideful, not prideful moments, but like truly they really care a lot about themselves, it's going to be hard. I want to hear from some ladies. Yes, oh, perfect.
I'm really interested in the Old Bethany wedding venue. So what has been the most challenging part of getting into the wedding industry or just maintaining relationships with different vendors, stuff like that? What's been the most challenging?
I think, like I was saying earlier, community over competition, so kind of the same way, a different way of saying value people over profits and different things like that. Just being willing to have a relationship with people even if they may be difficult to work with, going above and beyond to stay true to your character, which is to serve people well and to do an excellent job, which means a lot of times as a wedding photographer, I was the person who was like coordinating the day, even though that's not what I'm paid to do, even though sometimes other people were paid to do it. A tendency might be, I'm gonna let you drop this ball and they're gonna see that you're not gonna get any business, but instead I would try to step into that gap and help them with different things or even encourage them along the way. Hey, next time you might wanna do this. Yeah, I know you're new to this, I've been doing this for a couple of years, it's no big deal, but this is a suggestion for the future. And so the wedding industry in general is pretty interesting, especially in Waco. It's very different in bigger cities. But Waco, there's very limited options. There's only 2 rental companies really, or I guess maybe 3, but 2 big ones. There's only a handful of venues, less than 10. So how you maintain your relationships and how you treat people really does matter. And just doing things excellently. Being able to admit when you're wrong is huge. And this kind of goes across the board, not just wedding industry, but being able to admit when you're wrong. If you have a dissatisfied customer, instead of saying, no, I'm right, and what I did was good work, and you're wrong, that's not bad lighting, that's not a bad editing job, saying, oh, okay, well, let me refund you, hire somebody else, or I'd be happy to reshoot that for you. That hasn't happened to me a lot, but there are, just like in Waco Tours, there's that 2% of people that are unhappy because they're going to be unhappy with no matter what. Whoever cleans their house, whoever bakes their cake, whoever fixes their food at a restaurant, they're going to be unhappy because they look for that. But most people aren't like that. And so that 2% of the time being willing to say, yes, you were right, let me accommodate you, I think is super important.
Great question.
I have a quick question for you that's a
Yes,
two-part.
Kat.
So during this journey, what has been one of the best experiences, best part of getting to where you are now? And then on the flip side, what was one of the biggest hurdles, obstacles, struggles, and how did you overcome that and learn from that?
I think one of the best things with, let's say, Waco Tours is we do monthly meetings with our staff, which are called huddles. And I think that those are some of our best experiences, just being able to kind of step back and see all of the great people that work for us, how much they've become good friends, how they're so joyful, and how they love what they do. I think that's the most rewarding thing to see. We've been able to provide jobs for this many people, employ this many people, and they actually like what they're doing. I think that's super rewarding. And then for the venue, really just our first wedding was super rewarding. And because it went so quickly, the process went so quickly, I'm a little bit more of like a slow processor. And so the day of the wedding, I didn't even really act like I was the owner of the venue because I was just really overwhelmed. I was like, what? This is like our barn? Like, no, it's not. So it took me a while to kind of step into those shoes, I think, because I was just overwhelmed at just the goodness of God really in our lives. So those have been two of the most rewarding moments. What about hard moments?
Yeah, there's been different types of hard. The first time I ever had to fire somebody was a hard moment, and because I had empathy for the guy, but he did not have what we're looking for. And I remember a phrase that someone shared a while back of a terrible ending is better than an endless terrible. A terrible ending is better than an endless terrible. An endless terrible is keeping somebody on staff that does not need to be on staff. They will be cancerous to the culture of your company, and your people are your most important. For us, our people are our most valuable asset. And so having to have that conversation, I had to grow up. You know, at that point I was 28 and having a conversation with a guy in his late 30s about why he couldn't work for our company. And as young leaders for us both, we've constantly been leading people that are older than us, and that can be challenging, and you can feel the pressure in that. But overcoming that comes from being confident with who we are, and knowing that, hey, God's put us in this place, and the best we can only do the best that we can do, and beyond that we have to trust Him. So that was one challenging piece. And then I'd say recently, just we started as, me and David doing tours, and now we have 60 guides and drivers, we have 8 full-time staff. And so we've grown so incredibly fast that we're now having to implement policies and procedures that kind of feel like they come against the culture, this family culture of our company. But we know that our longevity could be hindered if we don't get the policies in place, if we don't have a anti-discrimination policy, if we don't have safety procedures. Again, David and I shaped the tours. There weren't a lot of safety procedures when we were shaping these tours. We've realized now when we're sending 2,000 or 20,000 people through our tours a year, we have a responsibility to make sure first and foremost our guests have to be safe. So it's identifying the problems and then prioritizing when and how you tackle them that is really, really helpful. Great question, Kathy. And this might be our last question. We've done at 1:30. Is that right? Okay.
So I was really curious, how do you guys, draw the line between we're business partners, but at the same time, or husband and wife and like 2 kids, and like how do you sort of like?
Well, we never fight, so it's pretty. It's not true. We fight.
It's hard. It really is hard. The good thing is that we are really good friends, and so we can be together all day long, and sometimes we are, and we don't like get tired of each other to where we're like, oh. I mean, sometimes we're a little bit annoying.
Mostly
but,
she just gets tired of me, which is understandable by the end of the day.
But yeah, we have to just do our best. It's not, everything kind of bleeds together, so we don't do this super well, but we do our best to just draw lines around, okay, this is family time. So we're gonna refrain from talking about ministry or work. And this is marriage time, so we're just going to talk about each other. Yeah, what's going on in your heart, you know? So it's not perfect by any means, but we do our best to try to create rhythms where we're prioritizing each other and prioritizing our family, because it's easier for us to just work on the external things. It's harder to focus on the things right in front of you, the conflict that's there, or the person that's there always that you know, like, oh, at the end of the day, we're still going to be married, so I don't have to prioritize you, when really, we still need to prioritize each other.
Absolutely. Getting your priorities right helps a lot. So I would rather, at the end of the day, I'd rather drop a ball at work before I drop a ball with my marriage or with my family. And you cannot juggle life without dropping balls. You will drop something, just choose what you drop. And for us, we consistently come back to, we will choose to drop other things, we will not drop our marriage and family. So date nights, we do our best to not talk about work stuff. Family time, I put my phone away, which is why some of you have probably experienced me not texting back super fast. We have to put these boundaries in place to ensure that our priorities are pushed through. And it's idealistic, so that's not a perfect process. Don't be like, I have to have this template of perfect boundaries. Not realistic, but continuing to refine and circle back on some of those things is really helpful. So thank you so much. And Kathy, thanks for putting this together. Tyler, thanks. And really, y'all's entrepreneurship department, your professors, this is an incredible place that you guys get to be a part of. This business school by itself makes me want to come back and do business school all over again. But you guys you're positioned so well. The question is, will you steward that well as you go forward? Will you make choices to add value to people, not just to add profits to your pockets? And I think that this room, I can't wait to see what types of lifestyle companies are started out of here, what types of godly hedge funds are started out of here. There's going to be an array of businesses that you guys are going to add value to the earth. So thanks so much. We really appreciate y'all. We'll hang for a little bit afterwards if y'all want to chat a little bit. But y'all have a great day.